Senryuu Shoujo is the story of a mute girl who can only communicate through Senryuu, Japanese poems, and her romantic relationship with an ex-delinquent who joined the literature club after becoming inspired by a poem he made in the heat of battle. Through a series of wacky hijinks and an especially off-kilter cast, the two find ways to cultivate their friendship and come even closer together. With that in mind, let's get into the meat of the video. The manga for Senryuu Shoujo first began serialization in October 2016 in Kodansha's Weekly Shonen. Most chapters are a collection of yonkama, otherwise known as 4-koma. These are basically newspaper-style comic strips and follow a structure known in Japanese as Kishon Tenketsu: setup, development, climax, and resolution. Senryuu Shoujo is a bit different from the standard, however, as it mixes in the occasional traditional manga page as well to highlight important events. The anime follows most of the events of the manga to a T, which isn't that unusual given the slice-of-life genre of the story itself. What I thought was kind of interesting though is that a lot of the jokes aren't necessarily adapted for the new format either. Much of the comedy in both formats is told verbally. Moreover, the jokes that do involve a character's sudden change in appearance, which makes sense in a manga format as each panel can be seen as though time has passed between conversation, play out exactly the same in the anime. For the first few episodes, this disconnect is a bit jarring, and instead of humorous, it just feels it just feels kind of weird is all. It almost lessens the appeal of the joke in a way. As the show goes on, however, the viewer adapts to this style of humor, and most of the jokes from there on land. Also, I think that this is a problem that Senryuu Shoujo exhibits in other places as well. With the way that the manga sometimes tend to shift tones when more serious things are about to happen, or a relationship is about to advance, it's expected that the formatting would have to match. In the manga, the switch between the yonkama style and the traditional format is very easy to see coming and flows pretty naturally from one to the next. In the anime, this isn't so much the case. Episode 11 is the best example of this. I understand that it being an only 12-episode show, they had to find a way to ramp up to the conclusion somehow, but the transition here from the very static nature of the show to the suddenly well-animated running scene and how bluntly the literature club president starts explaining fireworks and flowers, it just feels wrong. I don't know, like just completely disingenuous. It's almost like they tried to force an anime moment. I think that's my biggest problem with this adaptation, honestly. Nothing particularly new or exciting is added to expand upon the original material, and when it is added, it comes in as too little too late. The whole reason I read so far into the manga in the first place is because when you got to those detailed pages where Eiji and Nanako would end a situation closer than they ever were before, it felt natural and earned. The anime tries to cover such vast ground of the manga, but at the same time, tries to tell each chapter of the manga as its own episode. I can't speak for the majority, but it just doesn't work for me. Moai, or cute things being cute, is a stylistic choice that I tend to avoid. I'm not gonna say that it's ruining the sanctity of anime or that all shows were better before, because that's not entirely true. Moai has existed for as long as anime itself has existed. I believe that the problem with Moai has come from its overuse. Everything has to be cute now, even if it sacrifices a character's movement or even how a story is told. Sometimes it's taken to an extreme and a character stops existing in 3 dimensions and instead is only there to be cute. This is the main problem I have with Nanako. Beyond Senryuu, what kind of character is Nanako? We know she's clumsy and kind of an airhead and gets along well with her other classmates. Maybe it's just the format of romance stories in general, but she doesn't seem to have any aspirations beyond getting into a relationship with Eiji. She doesn't really seem to have a direction for her character to go in beyond this. This is sad for the secondary characters as well, because a lot of their stories revolve completely around Nanako and Eiji's relationship. This brings me to Eiji. A trend I'm seeing a lot in stories like these is that there will be a non-delinquent type character. What I mean by that is, we only know they were delinquent through direct admittance into text, and maybe their hair is bleached blonde. Everything about them, completely normal. This is fine in some cases, and with a story with a layout and art style like Senryuu Shoujo, I wouldn't expect there to be lots of fights in every chapter. It's not Eiji's story, and Senryuu Shoujo knows this, and keeps the story tightly based on or around Nanako. If Nanako's not present, characters will talk about Nanako, or think about Nanako. But then this creates a question: why is Eiji a delinquent in the first place? The story does benefit from having a character that doesn't quite understand the taboos of modern society, I will admit, but other than that, his delinquency effectively adds nothing substantial to the story. You could have told this story with Eiji being just a regular guy, or even a guy in a different club, and I can prove this with a little manga called Kimi no Toroke. Yeah, that's right, bitches. I'm breaking out the big guns. In case you were unaware of this monolith of shoujo, Kimi no Todoke is a shoujo story that ran in Besatsu Margaret for a decade and has won countless awards. It follows a girl everyone calls Sadako for her appearance who only wants friends, and her friendship turned eventual romance with the basically Troy Bolton of the school, Kasehaya. You may be thinking, how could you possibly be about to compare these two stories? Eiichi isn't popular, and Nanako has friends. These characters are nothing alike. Keep your pants on. I've got more to say after this too. It's about the dynamic, guys. Both sets of characters are very bad at displaying their true feelings, and both manga go on for a very long time straddling the line between advancement relationship and advancement in the plot. The biggest difference between these two, however, is that in Kimi no Todoke, the characters feel much less like archetypes and more like humans whose relationship naturally grows and progresses as the characters do the same. Though the comedy in Senryuu Shoujo is its biggest positive, it also holds itself back in terms of story. Since it's set up primarily as a joke manga, the characters are a lot of the time forced into comedic roles. It's like the mangaka isn't sure what kind of story they want to tell. This is directly obvious with how the shift in paneling style from 4-koma to traditional slowly becomes more traditional for chapters at a time. Adding to this, though, is that none of them really experience a visible growth beyond the change in their relationship. In Senryuu Shoujo's case, it is Eiji that wants friends, and Nanako who's good at amassing them. But due to the comedic style, Eiji is constantly shoved into the outcast role, and even sometimes the harem role? Seriously, why do all these girls want to bone Eiji? Why is it that one chapter everyone's scared of him, and the next everyone in the literature club is totally fine with him? Is it pheromones? Does he have weird pheromones? I don't understand! Overall, I wouldn't call Senryuu Shoujo's manga bad. It has some clever ways of crafting humorous punchlines, and the characters are pretty endearing for what character they do possess. The anime, however, falls a little short in terms of reaching the quality of the work it's based on. It fails to add anything substantial, story or animation-wise. I will say though, the one good merit of the anime is that it made Nanako's dad a bit more hilarious. I found myself laughing at most of his segments because they really played his reactions over the top. I don't have much more to add in terms of anything new to say because Senryuu Shoujo itself does tend to lean most on concepts that already exist and tropes we've already covered over a millennia of anime. Very little of it feels new, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't still hold some merit. After all, there are plenty of other shoujo stories with very similar plotlines that many people hold close. If Senryuu Shoujo is one of those stories for you, cherish it. Thank you so much for watching this video. I apologize if it's a little shorter than my previous videos, but sometimes there's only so much you can say without being redundant. Be sure to check out the other videos on this channel as always, and maybe subscribe if you're feeling fruity fresh about it. I've got some ideas for future videos, but if you've got anything specific in mind that you'd like to see me or the other creator on this channel cover, be sure to leave a comment. I'll see you later.